You've been sold a dangerous lie about aging and exercise. The relentless no pain, no gain mentality that dominates fitness culture is literally killing men over 70. Every day I see seniors grinding away on treadmills, destroying their joints and exhausting their recovery systems. You're sacrificing your longevity on the altar of outdated fitness dogma. The human body after 70 requires wisdom, not willpower. Strategic movement, not mindless exertion, is what separates those who thrive from those who decline. It's time to abandon these destructive patterns. Taking control of your body's actual needs isn't optional. It's fundamental to your dignity and independence. I've counseled men for decades, and there's a peculiar pattern I've noticed among those who reach their 70s. Most of them approach exercise like they're still in their 40s, grinding away with the same intensity, the same punishing routines. They wear their exhaustion like a badge of honor. It's almost as if they're trying to outrun time itself. This isn't just misguided, it's potentially destructive. Why high-intensity exercise can backfire after 70. Consider what happens in nature. The oak tree doesn't grow at the same rate throughout its life. It adapts, conserves energy, and focuses on maintaining what it has built. Your body operates on similar principles. After 70, your cellular recovery mechanisms slow dramatically. Mitochondria, the powerhouses within your cells, become less efficient. The inflammatory response to intense exercise lasts longer, sometimes days instead of hours. Each time you push yourself to exhaustion, you're not building. You're breaking down systems that now take 3 times longer to repair. I had a client, Harold, a former marathon runner, who couldn't understand why his daily 5-mile runs were leaving him constantly fatigued and injury-prone. "But I've always run," he told me almost defiantly. What Harold failed to recognize was that his relationship with his body needed to evolve. He was treating his 75-year-old physiology with the expectations of his 45-year-old memory. This represents a deeper psychological phenomenon: identity resistance. You've defined yourself by certain capabilities, certain activities. But clinging to these definitions when your biological reality has changed isn't perseverance, it's denial. It's like continuing to use a map of territory that has transformed. The terrain of your body has changed, and your approach must change with it. The science of recovery and how it changes with age speaks volumes here. After 70, your body's protein synthesis, the very mechanism that rebuilds muscle, decreases by up to 40%. Testosterone levels are a fraction of what they once were. Your connective tissue becomes less elastic, making injury not just more likely but more consequential. A torn ligament that might have healed in weeks now takes months or may never fully recover. This isn't pessimism, it's biological reality that demands respect and adaptation. Now let's talk about understanding your body's new signals and limitations. This requires a fundamental shift in awareness. The sensation that once signaled "push harder" might now be your body desperately waving a red flag. That burning in your joints isn't weakness leaving the body, it's wisdom trying to enter. The dizziness during exertion isn't something to power through, it's your cardiovascular system demanding moderation. I worked with a former business executive, Richard, who prided himself on pushing through the pain his entire life. When he developed atrial fibrillation at 72, he initially tried to exercise through it. "I've always overcome obstacles," he said. But this wasn't an obstacle to overcome, it was information to incorporate. Your body isn't your enemy after 70. It's your most important ally if only you'll listen to its changing language. This isn't surrender, it's strategic adaptation. The truly strong man isn't the one who bench presses the most weight in his 8th decade. It's the one who understands that strength now means sustainability. It means redistributing your physical investment toward what truly matters: mobility, balance, gentle strength that supports daily function. Recognize that your relationship with physical exertion must evolve. The heroic isn't pushing until exhaustion. It's finding the delicate balance that nurtures rather than depletes. And make no mistake, this requires more discipline, more wisdom, and more courage than mindlessly pushing yourself to physical extremes. It's about transcending the ego's attachment to youth and embracing the body's present truth with clear-eyed honesty. Let me tell you something profound about movement after 70. The most successful seniors I've worked with aren't those with the most impressive exercise routines. They're the ones who've mastered the fundamentals that actually matter. And it starts with something so basic we've forgotten its power: daily walking, the underrated cornerstone of senior fitness. I visited my colleague in Copenhagen last year, a city where elderly people remain vibrant well into their 80s. What's their secret? They walk. Not occasionally, not as a special event, but as an integral rhythm of daily life. Walking 30 minutes daily reduces all-cause mortality by nearly 22% in men over 70. It's not just exercise, it's a recalibration of your entire physiological system. But here's what most men miss. It's not just that you walk, but how you walk. Are you shuffling, looking down, moving from point A to B with resignation? Or are you standing tall, shoulders back, eyes forward, walking with purpose? The physical act of deliberately straightening your posture while walking triggers neurological circuits that combat depression and boost testosterone production, even at your age. Walk like you matter, because by God you do. The spiritual component of walking is something our ancestors understood intuitively. Søren Kierkegaard, the great Danish philosopher, wrote, "I have walked myself into my best thoughts." Walking creates a state neurologists call transient hypofrontality, a temporary quieting of the prefrontal cortex that allows deeper insights to emerge. It's not just exercise, it's meditation in motion, particularly valuable as you navigate the existential questions that arise in your 70s. Now let's talk about balance training, preventing the fall that changes everything. The statistics are sobering. 1/3 of men over 70 will experience a serious fall this year, and for many, that fall begins a catastrophic cascade of declining independence. What most don't realize is that balance isn't something you lose suddenly, it erodes gradually through neglect. I had a patient, William, a former judge who prided himself on his mental faculties. He dismissed balance training as unnecessary until one morning, reaching for his robe, he toppled over, breaking his hip. During his long recovery, he repeated one phrase, "If I had only known how important this was." Balance exists at the intersection of physical capability and neurological integration. It's not just about strength, it's about your brain's ability to map your body in space. The simplest practice: stand on one foot while brushing your teeth. Begin with 10 seconds holding on to the counter if needed, and gradually work up to 30 seconds without support. When that becomes manageable, try closing your eyes. This isn't trivial, it's recalibrating fundamental neural pathways that determine whether you'll navigate your world upright or become increasingly confined. Gentle mobility work, maintaining range of motion without strain, is the third foundation that transforms everything else. Modern life has created what I call sedentary prisons, environmental constraints that gradually freeze your joints into limited patterns. Your shoulders, designed to move in 360 degrees of rotation, now barely manage 90. Your spine, meant to flex and extend in multiple directions, becomes rigid from sitting in the same position daily. Consider this. Every morning, Japanese elders practice radio taiso, simple mobility routines that systematically move each joint through its full range. They're not trying to build muscle or burn calories. They're preserving the fundamental birthright of movement. Start your day by methodically rotating each major joint, ankles, knees, hips, spine, shoulders, elbows, wrists, 10 times in each direction. This isn't optional after 70. It's essential maintenance of the vehicle you inhabit. The deeper truth here is about reclaiming territory. Each range of motion you maintain represents physical space you can continue to inhabit independently. Each joint you keep supple ensures more years of self-sufficiency. This isn't vanity, it's primal dignity, the ability to move through your environment on your own terms. These three practices, walking with intention, balance training, and deliberate mobility work, form what I call the sovereignty tripod. Without them, all other exercise becomes virtually meaningless. Master these fundamentals first, then build upon them. Your goal isn't to impress others with feats of athletic prowess. It's to remain the sovereign of your own physical existence for as long as possible. And that begins with these seemingly simple yet profoundly powerful practices. The prevailing fitness culture tries to convince aging men that building strength requires suffering, that you must heave heavy weights and push through pain. This is not just wrong, it's dangerously misguided for men over 70. Let me show you a better path. Isometric exercises, building strength with minimal joint stress. Consider what happens when you push against an immovable object. Your muscles contract, generating force, but your joints remain stable. This is the brilliance of isometric training. It builds functional strength while nearly eliminating impact. I saw this principle at work with Martin, a 78-year-old former construction worker with severe arthritis. Conventional weight training had become impossible for him. But when we introduced wall sits, planks, and doorway presses, isometric exercises, his strength returned without the joint pain. The psychological dimension here runs deep. Men are conditioned to equate effort with movement, with visible labor. Isometrics challenge this paradigm. You can be working incredibly hard while appearing to do very little. This mirrors a profound truth about your stage of life. Your greatest strength now often comes not from forceful action but from strategic stillness, from knowing when to apply pressure and when to yield. Try this. Place your palms together at chest height, pressing them against each other with increasing force for 30 seconds. Feel the muscles throughout your chest, shoulders, and arms engage. This simple exercise activates over 20 muscle groups without a single joint being stressed. Incorporate 5 to 7 isometric positions, wall sits, doorway presses, planked positions, holding each for 30 seconds, and you've created a complete strength system that respects your body's limitations while challenging its capabilities. Resistance bands over heavy weights. Why tensile strength matters more after 70. The human body wasn't designed to move heavy objects in sterile, isolated patterns. It was designed to handle variable resistance throughout natural movement arcs. This is precisely what resistance bands provide. Continuous tension that builds what I call usable strength. Edward, a retired engineer I worked with, scoffed initially at the colorful bands I suggested. "These look like toys," he said. 6 months later, after consistent band work, he called to tell me he'd carried his grandson up 2 flights of stairs when the elevator broke, something he couldn't have done with his previous gym routine. Bands create what exercise physiologists call accommodating resistance. They're hardest at the point where your muscles are strongest, easiest where you're weakest. This natural accommodation reduces injury risk while maximizing effective stimulation. Start with light bands, performing simple movements, chest presses, rows, overhead presses, for 12 reps for 15 repetitions. Focus on smooth, controlled motion. The goal isn't exhaustion but engagement, teaching your nervous system to recruit muscle fibers efficiently. As you progress, you can add bands or move to ones with greater resistance. The beauty of this approach is its scalability and safety. You'll build functional strength that translates directly to daily life. The 70-30 principle, balancing effort with recovery, represents perhaps the most crucial shift in your approach to physical conditioning. After 70, the traditional equation of stimulus and response changes dramatically. Your capacity to recover from physical stress diminishes, but its importance increases exponentially. I witnessed this principle's power with Douglas, a 76-year-old former athlete who was exercising 6 days weekly but feeling constantly depleted. When we restructured his approach, 3 days of gentle strength work interspersed with active recovery days of walking and mobility, his energy rebounded remarkably. The wisdom here is counterintuitive. You build strength during recovery, not during exertion. The exercise merely provides the stimulus. The rebuilding occurs during rest. Implement this by ensuring you never work the same muscle groups on consecutive days. After any strength session, allot at least 48 hours for recovery. Monitor your body's signals diligently. Persistent fatigue, joint pain, or diminished enthusiasm aren't character flaws. They're valuable data points indicating you need more recovery time. The deeper pattern here challenges our cultural narrative around aging and strength. We've been taught that maintaining physical power requires increasingly heroic efforts as we age, pushing harder against the inevitable decline. This is precisely backward. True strength after 70 comes from strategic engagement, from understanding that less can be more when that less is precisely targeted and properly recovered from. This approach requires greater wisdom and discipline than mindlessly pushing yourself to exhaustion. It demands that you transcend the ego's attachment to proving yourself through physical heroics and instead embrace a more sophisticated relationship with your body, one based on respect for its changing capabilities and needs. This isn't resignation, it's evolution. The most profound oversight in conventional fitness approaches for senior men is neglecting the mind-body connection. This isn't some new age nonsense. It's fundamental neurophysiology that becomes increasingly crucial after 70. Let me explain why. Breathwork techniques that extend life and reduce stress have been practiced across civilizations for millennia, yet modern Western culture has largely forgotten their power. I'm reminded of Malcolm, a 74-year-old retired executive with chronic hypertension. Despite medications, his blood pressure remained stubbornly elevated. When we incorporated simple diaphragmatic breathing, 5 minutes 3 times daily, his readings normalized within weeks. His cardiologist was baffled, but the science is clear. Controlled breathing directly impacts your vagus nerve, which regulates heart rate, blood pressure, and inflammatory response. Begin with this fundamental practice. Sit comfortably and place one hand on your chest, the other on your abdomen. Breathe slowly through your nose, ensuring your abdomen rises while your chest remains relatively still. Exhale through slightly pursed lips, extending the exhale to twice the length of the inhale. This 1:2 breathing ratio activates your parasympathetic nervous system, your body's rest and repair mode. 5 minutes of this practice 3 times daily has been shown to reduce cortisol levels by up to 23% and improve heart rate variability, a key marker of longevity. The deeper dimension here is psychological. Controlling your breath is perhaps the most direct way to influence your autonomic nervous system, to shift from stress response to recovery mode consciously. In your 70s, this skill becomes not just beneficial, but essential. Your stress response mechanisms grow more sensitive with age, while your recovery capacity diminishes. Breathwork provides a powerful counterbalance to this physiological reality. Mindful movement practices for cognitive preservation represent another critical dimension of fitness after 70. Tai Chi and gentle yoga aren't just about flexibility, they're sophisticated neurological training systems. Studies from Harvard Medical School have shown that seniors practicing Tai Chi 3 times weekly for 6 months improve executive function, decision-making, attention, and working memory by up to 42%. Consider Joseph, an 81-year-old former professor who began experiencing cognitive fogginess that alarmed him. Rather than resigning himself to inevitable decline, he began practicing Tai Chi. 6 months later, he reported not just improved balance but enhanced mental clarity. The movements require focused attention to sequence, timing, and spatial relationships, creating what neurologists call enriched environments for your brain. Each session becomes a form of moving meditation that simultaneously challenges your physical balance and cognitive function. Start with simple practices, even 5 minutes daily of gentle movement with conscious attention. Focus completely on the sensations of your body moving through space. When your mind wanders, and it will gently return your attention to physical sensation. This isn't just exercise, it's training your attentional networks and creating new neural pathways. Social movement, the overlooked benefit of group activities, might be the most underappreciated aspect of fitness after 70. The data is striking. Seniors who exercise in groups show significantly better adherence and report higher satisfaction than those exercising alone. But the benefits extend far beyond consistency. I observed this with Richard, a 77-year-old widower who joined a senior walking group. Within months, his depression lifted and his inflammatory markers improved dramatically. The combination of movement and social connection created synergistic benefits neither would have produced alone. This reflects a fundamental truth about human nature. We are inherently social creatures. Movement in community satisfies deep evolutionary needs for belonging and shared purpose. The neurochemistry is fascinating. Group exercise triggers greater endorphin release than solitary workouts. It also activates your brain's mirror neuron system, which helps you maintain proper form and rhythm almost automatically. Find opportunities to move with others, whether formal classes, walking groups, or dance sessions. The format matters less than the social component. This isn't about performance or competition, it's about shared experience. For men particularly, these movement communities provide valuable social connection without the pressure of direct conversation that can sometimes feel uncomfortable. The integration of breath awareness, mindful movement, and social connection creates what I call the cognitive movement triad. Each component reinforces the others, creating benefits far greater than the sum of their parts. This approach transcends the artificial mind-body division that has dominated Western fitness culture. What's truly at stake here is not just physical health, but cognitive resilience and emotional well-being. These practices don't just add years to your life, they add life to your years, maintaining the cognitive clarity and emotional equilibrium that make those years worthwhile. And isn't that the ultimate purpose of any fitness program in its Let's be something essential. Knowing what to do isn't the same as implementing it consistently. The graveyard of good intentions is filled with excellent fitness advice that was never properly integrated into daily life. Let me show you how to actually live these principles. Creating a sustainable weekly movement plan begins with brutal honesty about your current reality. I remember Frank, a 72-year-old who insisted he could immediately commit to an hour of exercise daily. When I suggested starting with just 15 minutes 3 times weekly, he was almost offended. 6 months later, he admitted that had he attempted his original plan, he would have abandoned it within weeks. The sustainable approach had become a consistent part of his life. Start by assessing your current baseline honestly. If you're currently sedentary, commit to just 10 minutes of deliberate movement daily, a short walk, basic mobility exercises, or gentle stretching. Schedule these sessions at the same time each day, preferably anchored to existing habits. Morning coffee becomes morning coffee and joint mobility. Evening news becomes evening news and gentle stretching. This habit-stacking approach bypasses willpower, which becomes an increasingly unreliable resource as we age. As these sessions become automatic, typically after about 3 weeks, gradually extend their duration and complexity. The key principle is progressive consistency. It's better to do 15 minutes daily for months than an hour daily for a week before burning out. Document your adherence in a simple journal or calendar. This isn't about narcissistic self-monitoring, it's about creating accountability to yourself and recognizing patterns that help or hinder consistency. Environmental design, setting up your home for natural movement, represents perhaps the most overlooked yet powerful strategy for maintaining physical function. Your physical surroundings shape your behavior far more than willpower ever could. I worked with Harold, a 79-year-old with deteriorating strength, who transformed his outcomes by simply rearranging his home. We placed resistance bands on his favorite chair, a balance pad by his bathroom sink, and yoga blocks near his television. The basic principle: reduce friction for beneficial movements and create gentle obstacles for detrimental ones. Place frequently used items on shelves that require a slight stretch to reach. Position your chair slightly closer to the table so you must engage the floor to reach forward. Keep a tennis ball on your desk to squeeze during phone calls. This environmental restructuring works because it harnesses what behavioral psychologists call choice architecture, subtly guiding behavior through environmental cues rather than conscious decision-making. Each small movement accumulation throughout your day eventually creates substantial results without requiring significant time commitment or willpower. Tracking progress meaningfully beyond steps and reps requires a fundamental shift in measurement philosophy. Most fitness programs focus on quantifiable output metrics: weight lifted, distance covered, calories burned. After 70, these become increasingly irrelevant. What matters isn't what you did during exercise, it's how that exercise affects your daily functional capacity. Thomas, a 76-year-old client, initially obsessed over his walking distance until I redirected his attention to functional outcomes. Instead of tracking miles, he began noting how easily he could rise from a chair without using his arms, how confidently he navigated stairs, how long he could play with his grandchildren before tiring. These functional capacity measures provided far more meaningful feedback than abstract exercise metrics. Implement this approach by selecting 3-5 activities of daily living that matter to you, perhaps carrying groceries, gardening without back pain, or climbing stairs without holding the railing. Rate your ease performing these tasks on a simple 1-10 scale monthly. This creates a feedback loop connecting your movement practices to what actually matters, living independently and doing what you love. The psychological dimension here runs deep. This shift from performance metrics to functional outcomes challenges the achievement orientation that may have driven you throughout your professional life. It requires embracing a different paradigm of success, one measured not by comparing yourself to others or even to your younger self, but by evaluating your capacity to live with autonomy and dignity right now. What's ultimately at stake is your capacity for continued self-determination. Every functional movement you maintain represents freedom, freedom to travel, to care for yourself, to engage fully with life on your own terms. This isn't about vanity or competition, it's about sovereignty over your existence. The movement practices I've outlined aren't just about health in some abstract sense. They're about preserving your fundamental liberty to navigate the world independently. So ask yourself, what kind of final chapters do you want to write? Will you surrender prematurely to limitation and dependency, or will you commit to these strategic movement practices that maintain your capacity for meaningful engagement with life? The choice, as always, remains yours. But know this, your body will respond to intelligent care at any age. The question isn't whether these practices work, it's whether you'll implement them consistently enough to reap their transformative benefits. The revolution in movement after 70 isn't simply about physical practices, It's about reclaiming your relationship with time itself. The conventional narrative tells you that aging means inevitable surrender, that decline is your destiny. But what if the truth is far more nuanced? What if strategic adaptation represents not retreat, but evolution? The chaos of mindless exertion leads inevitably to breakdown, joints that fail, systems that collapse, independence that erodes. The order of intentional movement builds resilience, function, and autonomy. One path leads to premature dependency, the other to sustained dignity. The difference isn't just physical, it's existential. Every morning when you rise, you face a fundamental choice. Will you move with intention through this world, or will you allow yourself to be gradually confined by neglect? Your body at 70 isn't a burden to be endured. It's a sophisticated instrument requiring a more refined approach. The question isn't whether you can maintain function, it's whether you'll accept the responsibility to do so. The greatest tragedy isn't physical limitation, it's the premature surrender to limitations that haven't yet arrived.